a little excited coming outside. But this is Gremlin. Gremlin's a 1-year-old male peregrine falcon, and he is of the largest subspecies of peregrine falcon found in the world. They can kill things up to the size of a Canada goose. They can kill sage grouse, sandhill cranes, and they don't migrate. So they are found on the northwest corner of the United States, Oregon, Washington, and then up into the Aleutian Islands into Alaska. So if you're going to hunt things like puffins, geese, and large waterfowl, you kind of have to have some attitude, and he definitely has the attitude.
Wow. Tell me just a little bit about the hood there.
The hood is something that is kind of in the toolbox that falconers use. So falconers are people who hunt wild quarry with trained birds of prey, and it's something that's been around for about 4,000 years. So the hood basically acts like blinders do on a horse. It helps to keep the bird calm while we're traveling, take away all that extra visual stimulation that's going to be really frightening. He basically just sits on a perch in the back of my car. So rather than driving down Highway 61 in Silver Bay, Two Harbors, and having trucks and everything be really frightening, he's totally oblivious to it all. So it's not a negative thing. That's what's called a rouse, and a rouse is basically something that realigns all those feathers. Birds, in addition to preening, need to keep their feathers absolutely perfectly clean, straight lined, and everything along those lines. So that's a comfort behavior that we'd like to see. But he's just a year of age, so he still has his juvenile plumage. As an adult, he'll be beautiful slate gray on his back, and then have a really white chest as an adult. He's about 1.5 pounds, which is about the average size of a female peregrine up here on the shore. So they are, even as a male, imagine something 2.5 times larger if it was a female. So you can kind of see why that size is going to help them to hunt something like a Canada goose, or certainly any kind of waterfowl we have here on the shore.
That's incredible that they can bring a Canada goose. Wow.
But again, if you're diving at 240 some miles an hour in a dive or a stoop with that one back toe, which is called their halex, just striking you at the base of the skull is what can kill their prey. So they don't punch their food like we had thought for many years that falcons punch their food to kill it. Because how could a 1.5 pound bird kill something that's 8 to 10 pounds in size without really exerting a lot of pressure to it and oomph to it? And now with technology, we've actually used trained falconry birds and put them on quarries such as sage grouse, pheasants, quail, ducks, a lot of different things. And 9 times out of 10, they actually will strike with this back toe. And that's their killing toe. It's got the most power and grip for anything. So when they strike you at the base of the skull, it pretty much is going to kill you outright as quarry. As a field biologist, getting hit by something that does that, they can knock me out cold. The coordinator for this program, Dr. Tordoff, he was 6'4", about 200 pounds, and he was hit so hard by a peregrine on the top of a building in downtown Minneapolis, he ended up doing a face plant, and she just toppled him. And again, she was maybe 2.5 pounds.
Wow.
So their long, narrow pointed wings are what help them to exert that force. They're built like a fighter plane. So when you kind of think about a peregrine versus a red-tailed hawk, the falcons, the red-tails, or the falcons, kestrels, prairie falcons, all things like that, very long, narrow pointed wings that give them the aerodynamics to fly as fast as what they do. Where red-tails and soaring hawks and eagles are built for a much slower hunting speed, their food doesn't move that fast. They're hunting things like fish, roadkill, it doesn't move at all, rabbits, turtles, squirrels, where these guys are pretty much hunting almost exclusively other birds. So they have to be able to spin on a dime, go into an inversion. They can actually catch their prey in a 180 underneath and grab their prey in the abdomen area of something like a pheasant or a grouse. So you can see why peregrines were considered the king sport. and why there's still a lot of that history and culture that goes along with the species even today. So let's go look at some birds.
Wow. So everybody, here I am with Jackie. We're on the North Shore.
Hi,
and
everybody.
We're gonna go see what we can find down here. This is a traditional nesting site. And so we've seen birds here many years.
We've had peregrines here since the early 90s, but even pre-DDT, peregrines were historically known to nest at Kennedy Creek back in the 30s and 40s. And then, just like a lot of other species, bald eagles, osprey, as well as peregrine falcons, the DDT traveled up through the food chain, caused the eggshells to become so thin that the birds couldn't properly care for those eggs and incubate them, and the young chicks would die. So we are very excited to have peregrines back on historic cliffs. It's always nice to have a webcam so you can get that insider look into the life of a falcon in downtown Minneapolis or Chicago, but having them back here on the cliffs of the shore is, I think, much more rewarding and exciting because they've been here for thousands of years.
Amazing.
So you can kind of see, I personally think that peregrines pick a magical spot to nest, especially up here in the North Shore or places like Yellowstone National Park, the Grand Tetons, Yosemite, away from people, really high cliffs, and then also near water. The water is really their food source. So wherever you have water, you have birds migrating, you have waterfowl, and those are all things that peregrines have been known to eat, especially here in the upper Midwest. So the North Shore right now, we know of at least 25 different nesting spots.
Wow.
All natural, except for one in Silver Bay. But they found the spots all on their own, and we just got lucky enough to have somebody who told us about where the birds were coming and going from. So we started releasing birds in the mid-80s up at Wolf Ridge, up at Mount Oberg, in what are known as hack boxes. So captive bred birds were kind of given an easy street kind of life, all the food that they could want, and then magically the doors of the pen open one day, people continued to feed them, and then if you could survive that first challenging year, some of those birds made it back 2 years later. So one of those birds was a male named Blueberry that nested right here at Kennedy Creek.
Cool.
So Palisade Head was another spot that was the first natural nesting location for peregrine falcons in the upper Midwest post DDT, and that was 1987. And it was a female from Minneapolis. She was a monster bird. She was the Peel subspecies.
Okay.
She was named after William Refrigerator from the Chicago Bears.
I remember that.
She had, we called her Thunder Thighs because she was so big and so mean. We all made the sign of the cross every time we had to go in and handle her. And she met up with a little male that came from Mount Oberg, and they nested at Palisade and produced 2 chicks that first year back in 1987. And Palisade Head to this day holds the record for the most wild produced peregrines out of any natural site in the upper Midwest.
Wow.
So right in our backyard.
And we can find that information in the reports on the website, right?
Yes, you can find it in the state reports and also the regional reports at midwestperegrine.umn.edu. But basically, if you type in Midwest Peregrine or Peregrine Falcons in the Midwest, you'll come to our database, and you can look up any record of any bird that has ever been banded. And we have over 9,000 birds that have been banded since we started in 1981. It tells you where they came from, and you can do lessons. We have some teachers that do lessons with migration. Anytime a report comes in from the banding lab that says a bird I banded in Duluth, Minnesota was found in Lima, Peru, 4,300 miles away.
Wow.
Which is the farthest migration we've ever had on a banded bird. We've got peregrines from the North Shore at Palisade Head, a bird we named Lizard, after the wife of one of the field biologists here. Mm-hmm. She is nesting in St. Louis
Very nice.
on a webcam, and she's still alive and kicking at 14 years of age.
Wow.
So
How long do they live?
they can live up to 20 years, which is the longevity record. On average, 15 to 20 is probably more likely. We have a couple of 16-year-old birds right now in the population here in Minnesota. And it's making it through that first year. That first year is the challenge. You're inexperienced, you're naive, you don't know how to hunt, you've got glass and power lines and cars and people who try and shoot you and poisons and a lot of things out there to try and overcome. And so mortality is pretty high that first year, but once you make it to your first birthday, you've got a pretty good shot at living another 8 to 10 years.
So we just took a little break there because Jackie heard a peregrine down in the bay. So what we're going to do here in a moment is take a walk down there and see if we can find it. And we want to look at it close enough to be able to tell if it has bands on it, and if it does, what the numbers and colors might be. So let's follow Jackie here.
Okay, we'll load up our scope. Now you try and be stealth mode.
Yeah.
Sneak up on them. And usually I just start listening. So if we hear a wail or a cacking, then we try and use our other senses and try and figure out where they are. The birds in this territory typically like to be in these birch trees right over here, occasionally across the bay. We kind of look for a little vertical nubbin. So Joe, I'm going to have you look across the bay and I'll start looking in these trees. You have pretty good eyesight.
Oh.
There you are. It's right on top of the birch snake.
All right.
A big birch snake, real close.
And he is way off in the distance.
There she is. And I've got her in the scope. Do you want to take a look at her?
Oh, I see him. Gosh,
He's still soaring?
he's at the top of a snag, and the thing is that with the naked eye, he just looks like the snag.
Yeah,
That's really amazing.
with their colors. So she's up there. She's up along the high ridge on the other side of the highway, right on the top of a birch tree snag at the very point. And even with the naked eye, now I know she's up there, now that I found her. But with her black and white markings, she blends in really, really well with the birch bark. So it can be really hard to find these guys if they're facing you in this kind of landscape.
Amazing, thank you.
Oh, I totally got it now. Yep, yep. Oh my gosh, and it sounded like it was over there.
So usually what I do when I'm here alone, I go out to the... So he's hit. I'm going to try and get the scope on him because if he is
Oh,
going to...
cool. All right.
And here he comes. You have your thing going?
towards me.
So as he starts vocalizing, he's going to have a higher pitch vocalization than what the female does. He's got quicker wing beats, being smaller. He's more athletic than what the female is. And now that's her.
Yeah.
Okay, now land. I'll see if I can find the male. I still say he's.
So now I see, oh my goodness. There goes a kingfisher, and the peregrines are trying to get the kingfisher. Okay, there's no way you're gonna be able to see it with this camera, but they're chasing after a kingfisher right now. Oh my gosh, it just hit the water. Now it's going along, and they just perched. Oh, 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 oh. There goes one of the adults.
Never gets old.
So we were just watching both of the peregrines chasing after a kingfisher for a little while down there. Yeah, I'm kidding.
You might be able to see the tersel too. So they should land pretty soon. I can find her again.
I see her right over here. Yeah, top. Here, right?
Oh, duh.
Top. Yep. Probably hear it on the GoPro.
It's pretty loud.
Yeah.
So he's across.
Yep. All right, and then she's down low, huh?
Yep.
Oh, I think I just saw movement.
She's also at the top of a birch snag.
Oh, then I
But
wasn't.
she's really,
Oh, I got her. I totally got her.
yeah, she's easy to see.
Yep.
But trying to find her in the camera was hard.
Yeah.
Being an unbanded bird, she could be one of ours that we just couldn't access. Here she comes.
Okay, she's coming right at us. And there she is, right over there. Oh, and there he is. All right. They're both flying here. One over there, one over there. There they are.
And never get tired of looking at it.